Our guest today for the Horn Notes video podcast is Derek Wright. Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to talk to you again. Derek holds a Doctor of Musical Arts degree from Arizona State University, a master's degree from the University of Minnesota, and a bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois. But more to the topic of this episode, Derek's been working these past few years for Houghton Horns and was instrumental, along with Mark Houghton, in the development of their line of mouthpieces, which personally I think are a great product. In particular, the one-piece stainless steel models I think are pretty revolutionary at the price point. So first question I have for you would be, what led Houghton Horns to think about developing a line of mouthpieces to begin with?
Well, the idea for mouthpieces came between a lot of conversations between Mark Houghton and I. We were spending a lot of time in the car together, traveling different places, and we just got to talking about what we felt was missing from the current selection of mouthpieces on the market, especially a really good stainless steel one-piece mouthpiece. You know, that would be an affordable price point.
Yeah, definitely. And just breaking in there, too, I mean, I've felt for a long time, I mean, you know, I'm a little older. There's some of these old standard lines are just, they're old, they're not, you know, it's like, it's really, it's kind of holding back people that they're sort of stuck with some older designs that they're just kind of using. Again, I kind of go back to this line of mouthpieces thing. The most recent episode that I did was with Gabe Kovac, who developed a personal model with Hauser. But in this case, you're doing sort of you're thinking bigger here. You're making a line that would be suitable to a lot of players. How does that impact your thinking?
Well, we wanted a line that was very simple, where we didn't have a million different choices, but everything, or we have choices, but all of them kind of fall into a broad middle of the road category. So none of the mouthpieces we make fall into one end of the spectrum or the other, as far as bore size, as far as cup size, as far as rim width. It's all pretty middle of the road and pretty suitable for the vast majority of players.
Yeah, no, I mean, just breaking in on that thought too. I've been using these with students here, which is why I'm like enthused about them. But I would say almost anybody seems to be able to play at H1. Some horns and some players, the H2 is better, and the H3 is kind of good for somebody who needs a little darker sort of sound kind of thing. It's kind of just a little more that direction.
Right.
But they're all still family.
Right, and you're very much to thank for the H3 design. I became interested in the black letter Farkas mouthpieces from your studio, and I knew there are a lot of mouthpieces inspired by them, but not. There's
a lot of near misses out there.
Yeah,
yeah.
So we wanted to get something that was a little bit closer to that. I know many of your listeners. The black letter Farkas mouthpiece has nothing to do with the Houghton Farkas mouthpieces that you may be familiar with. This was as far as I know, it was a design made by Schilke before he had the Schilke company, and this was a mouthpiece that was made for Philip Farkas.
Yeah, I mean, the original actually was made by Philip Farkas because he was friends with Schilke, and he would go to his house and make mouthpieces, which is pretty impressive. But supposedly they only sold about 1,000 of them before he became associated with Houghton, and then the Houghton line's a little different. Now, I wanted to touch on a few questions I think people have often. So the H1, all of them have some options.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not. It's not. Again, you've kind of whittled it down to just a few options. The H1 has the different inner diameters, and also all of them are available either with standard or European shanks. So, and to older horn teachers, those will seem like kind of new options. So, why don't you talk a little about both?
About the shanks?
Well, shanks and also the inner diameter.
Okay. Well, the inner diameter, the mouthpieces are offered from 17.25 millimeters all the way up to 18.25 for the one-piece mouthpieces. And inner diameter, I found, helping out lots of people at the shop pick mouthpieces, is truly a personal decision. Different people will need to use different inner diameters depending on the size and shape of your lips. And the best way to tell is to actually just try the mouthpieces. I generally would recommend starting somewhere in the middle. You can just try a little bit larger. You'll know immediately once you get too large because the sound will be washed out and and lose a lot of core. But if you get too small, the sound tends to be strained and really, really tight.
Yeah, you notice it in some of the ranges, and I think this is also another thing that's like sort of revolutionary about. I mean, of course, this has been around for a little while, so the Lasky line had the inner diameters too, but older teachers, you pretty much just used what Giardinelli, you made it work somehow, or you just didn't make it work and you quit horn. It just wasn't something you had as a real option.
Yeah, and that's very dangerous thinking.
Yeah.
You need to find what's best for you, and what's best for you isn't going to be what's best for somebody else. If someone with very thin lips and a certain type of embouchure may play very well on a C1 or a C8 with a really small rim, but then you can't give that mouthpiece to someone with fuller lips and expect them to really flourish on it.
Oh, no, definitely not. And it's something, it took me a while as a teacher to kind of see it, but once you do see it, it's just makes totally a difference for certain students and players. Just to be a little bigger inner diameter, it just opens everything up, and in a good way. But again, you go too far, it sort of sucks energy out of your face, and it's just it's too far.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll often tell people too, as you would think about it, trombone players play almost as high as we do on mouthpieces that are vastly larger.
Exactly.
So it's maybe we're just sort of stuck in our thinking. Now let's go to the the shanks part, European versus standard.
Well, the shank really has to do with the fit of the mouthpiece into the horn. You don't want the mouthpiece to fit too deep, or else the low register is very unfocused, and tuning is bad. And you don't want it to fit out too far because tuning is bad again, and the high register tends to get really tight and very, very sharp. So you want getting the right fit of. I've had it explained to me, you can't really get it exact unless you have an X-ray machine. You want the end of the mouthpiece to be exactly where the venturi of the lead pipe is. So you have a section at the end of the lead pipe where it tapers in before it starts tapering out to the rest of the horn. And right at that point where it switches from tapering in to tapering out is exactly where you want your mouthpiece to fit. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about that because you can't see that.
You can't see it, but you can feel it if you actually start experimenting with have the right, mouthpieces to do it with. Mm-hmm. It does make a difference.
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why back in the day people didn't play European horns very much, because they had mouthpieces that fit in much too far and they just didn't feel any good. And they're like, well, why would I want to play this? It doesn't play well at all. Mm-hmm. And the mouthpiece has to suit the horn. I got one other just basic topic on these I want to just talk about briefly, and it has to do with stainless steel versus brass. Now, you've chosen stainless steel, and it's I know it's not totally indestructible, but it's relatively, it's a harder material, but it has unique sound qualities too. So let's talk about that.
Well, stainless steel is a harder metal, and unlike silver-plated brass mouthpieces, stainless steel, there's no plating to wear. It's just a solid stainless steel mouthpiece. So unless you start dropping it onto concrete surfaces, your mouthpiece should last forever. It's never going to just, disintegrate.
Right, and that allows too. There's no plating, so the plating can't throw it off spec at all. It's exactly on spec as it's made with the CNC lathe. Now, and related to that, though, what about sound? Just speaking generally,
they definitely have different sounds. I'd say stainless steel comes off as a little bit pingier. The articulations are definitely improved from stainless steel to brass. If you do a side-by-side recording, stainless steel will have very much more defined articulations. And the sound is a little bit more open. You get some higher overtones in the sound. While brass is a little bit warmer, a little bit more subdued, a little bit more velvety as far as sound's concerned. But I wouldn't say one is better than the other. They are different, and there are some players out there who just absolutely don't want anything to do with stainless steel, which
they're not innovative, are they? They don't want change. No, I've had students try both back to back. It's very interesting, and I would suggest anybody that is sort of on the fence at all about this, I mean, give it a try, because really the stainless steel does it does something, and it's hard to put your finger on it, but it definitely, for some players, it's definitely an improvement. So again, I'm going to have you back for another episode talking about trying horns and mouthpieces here. So we'll close up here for the moment. I just want to congratulate you again on this line. Be sure to check the Houghton Horns website for more info on it. And I just want to thank Derek for joining us, and also thank you out there for listening to the Horn Notes video podcast. And keep watching for more episodes on a variety of topics related to the French horn.
Right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.